big event. This is our 26th annual event here at the State Capitol. And I should let you know, Minnesota is one of the leaders in the nation. We recently launched the website for this event, and we got a call from the National Office for National Girls and Women of Sport Day asking if they could use some of our information on their website. So Kelly, where's Kelly? Kelly is my cohort and co-chair. Kelly is from Augsburg College. And at this time, before we go any further too, I'd also like the other committee members, most of them have name tags on. Would you guys step forward and just be recognized for your work? So, one of the most important things I think about the 40th anniversary of Title IX, and the motto for this year is 40 years in it for the long run. And I myself am old enough to remember when Title IX became law, and we've made a lot of progress, but I think we all need to be vigilant about making sure that we continue to support Title IX. There are still folks out there who aren't supportive and are trying to dismantle it, but it's really important that each of you go back to your community and make sure that you voice your opinions about opportunities for girls and women. So today, we have some special guests, but the first thing I'd like to do is introduce our MC for the day, Lynette Sjoquist. And Lynette, if you don't know her face, you'll probably recognize her voice. She is the radio analyst and voice of Gopher women's basketball on the radio, color analyst, and she's a former member of All-American Redheads. Those of you who are too young, you need to read these books over here and get some history about where the women's basketball game has come from. So Lynette was also a member of the Minnesota Phillies, one of the first pro basketball teams in Minnesota for women, and of course now we have the fabulous Lynx, who are also here with their trophies, so make sure you go and get a picture with the trophy. So anyway, without further ado, Lynette Sjoquist.
Wow, nice audience. Thank you all for being here. Are we excited about 40 years? I am. You know, frankly, some people, actually a lot of people, kind of shy away from that 40th birthday. Not us. We celebrate it, yeah. We are here not only to celebrate the 40 years of Title IX, but also to celebrate the people who have given life to the legislation and who continue to inspire and support girls and women in sports. They have cherished the opportunity to provide opportunities. These individuals may not often get the recognition that they deserve. We're here to change that and say thanks to them and recognize them for their accomplishments. Hear, hear. As a part of today's tribute and ceremony, we are actually very honored to have a proclamation from the governor of the state of Minnesota. Presenting the proclamation here himself, the governor of Minnesota, Governor Mark Davis.
This is a very, very special day. Passage of Title IX legislation and all that's unfolded because of it is one of the important pieces of social legislation in my lifetime. Passed by a Democratic Congress, signed by a Republican president. And when I was in the U.S. Senate, and one of the Senate authors, former Senator Berg came to one of our caucus lunches. Some of the senators, like Ted Kennedy, who were back there, were there when the bill passed, told Senator By that this was the most important piece of social legislation they voted on in their entire Senate careers. So it has enormous impact. And for those of you who weren't born when I was growing up, an increasing number of you, you know, the best women athletes in my high school area were relegated to being cheerleaders. And where there were sports for girls, remember basketball, they weren't allowed to cross the center court line. Hockey was ringettes instead of sticks. So, I mean, Title IX started to break those barriers. And the result, when I was coaching my son's youth hockey team for 8 years, for about the first 6 of them, we had a girl on our team, a really good player. And I remember sitting in the coaching box, and the other team was right adjacent. And one of she had blonde hair coming out behind her helmet, and one of the players said to us, "Oh boy, that's a girl." And he said, "Yeah, and she's skating through our entire team." And now, of course, you know, girls, women have their own teams, and you know, one of the real pioneers, one of the real champions, I think more than any other single person in this building who deserves credit for the advances that Minnesota's made, girls and women's sport, for making Title IX a law, a reality, as Representative Phyllis Kahn, who's outstanding over there. Phyllis, you're great champion. And she's still playing hockey all the time, and I'm on total injured reserve, so. But, you know, and the other thing that happened as a result of Phyllis, one of the many things is, you know, back when the girls' hockey was expanding to teams, you know, there's enormous pressure for ice right at the time on the youth teams and the high school teams. And that's when Phyllis authored the legislation, the Mighty Ducks grant program, and provided matching grants to communities all over the state to build new rinks. And I think the number of rinks in Minnesota really doubled over that time. So the expansion of girls' sports then benefited the boys' sports because there was more ice available for everybody. And that's you know, the ideal is when it becomes a win-win kind of situation. And just finally, you mentioned the Lynx. It was such a thrill to go to their playoff games last year and to see each game, the attendance grow just exponentially, 15,000 at the end. And of course, to see them win the National World Championship was just a thrill. And just a terrific group of women who are not only great athletes, but really great role models. And to see all the young girls there with their moms and dads who were, and boys too, but the girls especially, for whom they can, you know, really see somebody and aspire. And I'm gonna be her. I'm gonna be like that. And you know, some of the male athletes that they're paid, you know, not always too congenial. And these 2 girls sitting next to me in the first game went off. They were a basketball, and so they went over and there was sort of a rope line where the players would leave after the game to go back to the locker room. And I followed along shortly behind the team, and these 2 girls were standing in the front row, and I said, "Well, if you get your ball signed," well, they got the basketball signed by Lindsay Whalen and Maya Moore, and Simone Augustus went to the locker room, took off her pair of shoes, autographed one shoe, and gave it to each girl. And you know, I mean, they were on the ceiling. So that's what, you know, sports brings, and that's what women's sports is doing to really, you know, change our face of our society in so many better ways. So it's my honor as governor of Minnesota to sign a proclamation. I'll spare all the whereases to proclaim today Girls and Women in Sports Day throughout the state of Minnesota. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you all of you who made this possible. Congratulations.
Thank you, Governor Dayton, for joining us in celebrating our 26th anniversary of this celebration, and more importantly, most importantly, the 40th anniversary of Title IX. We have a new addition to our celebration this year. What a great addition, and that is Ann Reed is with us here today. Ann is a native Minnesotan and has been a touring musician for over 30 years. Among Ann's accolades, Minnesota Music Academy Performer of the Year, Songwriter of the Year, Best Recording of the Year, along with several awards from the multitude of nonprofits that she has supported, while donating 25% of her time and efforts to organizations that primarily benefit women and children. She's a treasured daughter of the state of Minnesota, and it seems especially appropriate to have her here today to sing and to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Title IX. Please welcome Ann Reed. first honorees will receive our Breaking Barriers Awards. They were nominated by peers within their communities and are being honored for overcoming barriers to help provide athletic opportunities for both girls and women while serving as exceptional role models. I'll give just a brief description of their accomplishments taken from their nomination forms. They have given so much more than I can actually relay to you today. Many of them will also be honored in their communities or by their organizations at festivities in their home communities. Members of the Minnesota Coalition of Women in Athletic Leadership will hopefully assist me in presenting the awards. Let's give each of these honorees a quick 3-clap. Everybody get that? Quick 3-clap, and then we'll give a big round of applause after they've all been introduced. We'll see how well you can follow directions. I'm looking at my brother now because he can't do it very well. First of all, Sam Belkengren. Sam coached, let's try it again. 1, 2, 3. Who said it couldn't be done? Sam coached and taught physical education in the Richfield school system for 35 years and has been involved in the Richfield community for 47 years. She was one of the pioneers in helping establish activity programs for girls. Sam also served on the Richfield School Board, promoting positive change and growth in the community. She has been a role model for hundreds of young girls. But once again, Sam Belkengren. Next, Tracy Buford. Nicely done. Tracy has been coaching in girls basketball for most of her life. In the past few years, Tracy has been a volunteer coach for girls in grades 5 through 8 at the Laura Jeffrey Public Charter Schools in St. Paul. She coaches 3 teams, 2 of them traveling teams and a St. Paul rep team. By the way, if the name Buford sounds familiar to you, yep, you're right. She is the mother of the senior guard who led the team to victory over Ohio State. Who she has coached since the 2nd grade. So thank you, Tracy. Cancer recovery exercise for women, known as CREW, at the YWCA of Minneapolis. The YWCA initiated the CREW program in 2010 to help women achieve a successful recovery from cancer. Studies have shown that only about 22% of cancer survivors get enough exercise through their recovery. Pursuing fitness empowers women at a time when their health is at risk and provides them with an important support system during and after invasive treatments and surgeries. This program is all about celebrating the strength of women and helping them to take charge of their own health and recovery. Accepting the award for the YWCA is Kelly Klein, the Wise Fitness Coordinator and Crew Coach. Kelly Klein. Deborah Diamond. Deborah has become the University of Minnesota's leader for women's sports marketing. Her innovation, creativity, and dedication have helped to set attendance records in many women's sports at the University of Minnesota. She has also been a mentor to many young women who have interned with the marketing team. Deborah has also led the University of Minnesota's annual program to celebrate National Girls and Women in Sports Day. Deborah Diamond. Renee Gavick. Renee is the Dean of Students and has coached cross-country and track and field at the Visitation School since 1987. Aside from the many honors she and her athletes have received, it is her quiet, ethical leadership and ability to form strong and lasting relationships with her female athletes which distinguishes her and makes her such an invaluable member of the Visitation School community. Renee Gavick. Carrie Gettle. Since her graduation from Hamline University, Carrie has been involved in advocating for athletic opportunities for girls and women. She initiated a St. Paul's Fastest Kid program for 5th and 6th graders to promote fitness and allow kids to visit a college campus in conjunction with one of Hamlin's high school meets. She has also been involved in the Piper Athletic Association board and was a founding member of the Women's Initiative Committee, formed with the goal of promoting the women's sports experience at Hamlin. Carrie Gedda. Kelly Hawes. Kelly has been the girls' cross-country coach at St. Cloud Cathedral High School for 22 years. She has taken her team to the state tournament 17 times and won 2 state championships. She has also served as a gymnastics official for the Minnesota State High School League for the past 30 years and has been in charge of mentoring young officials. While Kelly is probably best known for her coaching, teaching, and officiating, she deserves just as much credit for her work in breaking barriers for students with dyslexia. Kelly Hawes. Connie Parsley. You guys are getting very good at this now, very good. Connie teaches in the science department at Visitation School and has coached the girls' golf team for the past 15 years. While her teams have been enormously successful, winning 11 conference championships and competing in the state tournament 6 times, it is her personal qualities and interpersonal skills that set her apart. One of her former players said, "Mrs. Parsley is one of the most influential people in my life because of her constant, positive presence in motivating me both academically and athletically." Connie Parsley. Kelly Rolstead. Kelly has worked as a hockey official at every level in Minnesota and throughout the U.S. for the last 15 years. Currently living in Coon Rapids, Kelly has continually worked to increase opportunities for female officials in the sport of hockey. Most notably, she has officiated at several world championships and, most notably, the 2010 gold medal game at the Vancouver Olympics. Kelly Rolstead. Jack Shawn. Jack has been the president of the Suburban Basketball Officials since 1984. In his role as an assigner, he has actively recruited and mentored many female basketball officials. Working within the Minnesota State High School League, Jack annually assigns 15 to 20 female officials for the section finals in girls 4A and 4AA. All the crews have been female for the past 3 years. In addition to assigning, Jack also had an impressive 45-year officiating career. Jack Shawn. Barbara Thomason. Barb has been involved with breaking barriers for several decades. In 1965, she played on the AAU basketball team, winning the state tournament. Later, she assisted Northwest USTA in starting youth tennis lessons in Park Rapids and still works with the community tennis programs. In 1987, Barb took over coaching the Park Rapids boys team tennis, coaching them through a successful run in 2008. From 2001 to 2006, Barb also coached the girls tennis team. Barb also serves as a mentor for the Park Rapids Area Kinship Program. Barbara Thomason. Sarah Waldo. Sarah is a teacher and a coach at Kelleher High School in northern Minnesota. Sarah's athletic director notes that in addition to her volleyball and track coaching duties, she has become invaluable by implementing new health and physical education curriculum, which focus on the lifelong healthy habits. He says she has the whole school buying into it. Sarah has even started a program for girls ages 5 to 18 who come in at 7 a.m. to work out with her. Sarah Waldo. Janet Zenzin. Janet has been the director of the Sauk Center Slam Volleyball Club for over 9 years. She has done a remarkable job of organizing the age group girls teams and providing opportunities for them to play both locally and to travel to other tournaments during the spring club season. Her club sponsors 7 age group girls teams, starting with 11-year-old girls. Many of her former participants are now, of course, coaching within the program, a tribute to her leadership. Janet Zenzen. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, let's give a huge round of applause for all of her. Next award is the Berg Award, presented to an outstanding K-12 physical education teacher who has expanded opportunities for girls and women. This award will be presented by none other than a former Associate Director of the Minnesota State High School League, somebody we know and love and can't get enough of, Dorothy McIntyre.
Vel Teichroew from Richfield HS. Vel was teaching in the 60s and 70s during those early years when we felt our way along, not knowing for sure how we were going to get to the next step, but we just kept walking. Vel was one of the people that you would call the glue of an association, of a group. She kept things together. One of the things that was so important
Yep, I'm old. We affectionately referred to Vel Teichroew as Miss T. I was a student at Richfield High School in the 60s, in 19... but I graduated from Richfield before Title IX, actually in 1968. And Vel tried to provide us with as many opportunities as possible. We had some field hockey games that we played against Dorothy McIntyre's Eden Prairie Terrier. And none of us knew what the heck field hockey was. It's like, what do you got, this weird stick? It only has flat side on one side. But anyway, we played. It was an opportunity to play. And then we also had, Lord knows why, a lake conference archery tournament. You are looking at one of the proud champions of the 1967 Lake Conference Championship archery team. Thanks to Miss Teichroew. And then we had some extracurricular activities outside of school, tackle football games, and once Val heard about those, she put the kibosh on those. But she ran our program. She was my first mentor, and I credit her with instilling a real passion for sports, even though we didn't even know what they really were. My senior year, we finally had a basketball game against Edina High School. We lost 12 to 13. It was a bar murder. I scored 1 point on free throw. But anyway, those are fond memories. I also have memories of hanging out in her office, playing pranks on her. She was immensely patient and had a good sense of humor. But most of all, she was a great mentor, role model, and somebody that we all looked up to tremendously. And I'm honored to be able to say a few words about her today. And I wish she were here, but we have somebody accepting on her behalf. She's down in Kansas as a snowbird and can't make it, but she's very near and dear to my heart.
I can invite Sandy and Kim to come up, and I'd like to present the Great Berg Award to Vel Teichroew, and Sandy will present Vel's comments on her behalf.
This is quite a day for Richfield. Vel Teichroew is a snowbird. She's down in Kansas for the winter time. She doesn't go down there. Comes up here in the spring usually to play golf. And Kim Lucky and me were entered by Val, so it's only fitting that we represent her. These are words of wisdom from Vel Teichroew. I would like to thank the Minnesota Coalition of Women in Athletic Leadership, Stephanie Schuler, a former student of mine, and Dorothy McIntyre for this honor. I regret that I am unable to accept it in person, but you may be sure that the plaque will hang in a special place in my home. The 1960s and 70s were challenging times. We were moving from being physical education teachers with the Girls Athletic Association, GAA, to becoming coaches of interscholastic teams. When we looked into the eyes of our young women who wanted to learn how to compete, we knew we had to make it happen. It was time for a change. So imagine that the sport we started with was gymnastics. We didn't have equipment, so we had to get inventive. Our first balance beams were made of 2x4 pieces of wood. Our first uneven parallel bars were made of iron pipes. Our gymnasts put sponges under their leotards. They still had bruises from the bars. Floor exercise was done on a bare floor with a mat tossed ahead of the gymnastic person doing the tumbling move. But soon we were conducting meets and even judging our new athletes. Big change was in the air. Fortunately, my school district in Richfield was supportive of this new girls' sports program. In 1969, when the Minnesota State High School League agreed to sponsor girls'
athletics alongside the boys program, it meant that we would now have state tournaments and doors would open for a variety of team and individual sports. We needed a voice, so we created the Minnesota Association for Coaches of Girls Sports. Our delegates would speak for girls sports at all league meetings and conduct clinics to help train new coaches in all sports. I offered to serve as the executive secretary of the Girls Coaches Association and kept records for all of their meetings and clinics. Some days I felt buried in paper, and I stayed in that position for 13 years. There were wonderful leaders during those years, and I was so lucky to work alongside them. As a result of 50 years of hard work, there are young women all over Minnesota and the United States who call themselves athletes. We proudly watch them competing at every level of all competition, all the way to the Olympics. If you ask me if I would do it over again, a Minnesotan like me would say, you betcha.
Okay, our next award honors somebody from the media, and just happens to be our own MC, Lynette Sjoquist. You have to get her here somehow, you know. Lynette has been a true media pioneer in covering women in sports. Most recently, she's been the voice of the women's basketball team for the Golden Gophers for 11 years. Before this, Lynette played and then worked as a public relations director for the Minnesota Phillies of the Women's Professional Basketball League. In this role, she was again a radio analyst, and she also worked to expand media coverage for the league and the team. Around your playing time, right? And even before her stint with the Phillies, she played for the All-American Redheads traveling basketball team, playing and promoting the game throughout the country. If you're not aware of this team, it was one of the biggest phenomena in the country for women's basketball at the time. She regularly, and Lynette continues to regularly speak to local community groups, promoting athletic opportunities for girls and women. Ladies and gentlemen, our 2012 Media Award winner, Lynette Sjoquist.
I gotta have the microphone in my hand. Thank you. Thank you to the coalition for this award. Who the heck knew it would come to this? My experience with the media began about 39 years ago while playing professional basketball for the All-American Redheads. I found myself on the other side of the microphone many times, answering questions from local newspapers, local radio stations, and on occasion from the national media, Sports Illustrated and Network TV. Their questions ranged from, do you really play 200 ball games a year against men? How did you learn to spin a basketball? How did you learn to juggle basketballs? All the way to, what's it like traveling in a stretch limousine across the country? Or, do you really have to dye your hair that color? Well, the answer is yes. What I realized was, people did want to know about female athletes. People were interested in how they trained, what their goals were, and what made them tick. In 1979, after playing one season for the Minnesota Phillies of the Women's Professional Basketball League, I was asked to join the front office as Public Relations Director, a very lofty title for a lot of work that I did that would not have been assigned to a director. But anyway, with that position came the rare invitation to join the radio broadcast of home games. Steve Johnson had approached the ownership about broadcasting games, and he was willing to share the microphone with a novice. I cannot thank him enough for his willingness to help me. Our broadcasts were tape delayed to, I am sure, a very small audience, but nevertheless, we were on the air. Over 20 years later, I was asked to join the coverage of the University of Minnesota women's basketball. I started with home games, webcasts with Jason Elliott, and concluded that season by broadcasting with radio legend Roger Buxton for the first and second rounds of the NCAA. The next 3 years, I was teamed with Tom Witchem for both home and away games, postseason play, including that glorious run to the Final Four in 2004. Rita Maloney, a past media award winner, and now Corbu Status, have been by my side, providing great support and professional guidance. I want to thank all of them for allowing me to follow my passion. I value the responsibility of getting it right when it comes to coverage of women and girls in sport. It is important to me and to many others in the industry to provide credible reporting and broadcasting. We have seen great growth in the media coverage of girls and women involved in athletics. Although I know Mary Jo Kane could tell me the exact statistics regarding proportion of coverage compared to men and where that coverage is located, front page, back page, beneath the fold, there has been growth. Growth from a time when we tape delayed home game radio broadcasts to the current situation with radio, Big Ten TV, and ESPN covering the entire non-conference, conference, and postseason play. Not only does this trend provide great exposure for the players and the university programs, but it also provides opportunities for women to be a part of those broadcasts. From the bottom of the totem pole to now coveted positions held by Doris Berg, Carolyn Peck, Debbie Antonelli, Steph White, Brenda Van Langen, Kara Lawson, and Rebecca Lobo. We have seen some dramatic changes in the last 20 years. My hope, of course, is that we will see even more. Thanks again for the award, and thanks for tuning in and listening. The Wilma Rudolph Courage Award is given to a female athlete who exhibits extraordinary courage in her athletic performances and demonstrates the ability to overcome adversity while making significant contributions to her sport while serving as an inspiration and role model. Today's honoree is Gabrielle Anderson. Gabrielle was an outstanding cross-country and track and field athlete at the University of Minnesota. Prior to her senior year, she was diagnosed with adenoid cystic carcinoma, an uncommon and persistent cancer. She endured treatments for the cancer and was able to return the next season and perform at a high level in both the Big Ten and nationally. Among her many outstanding performances at Minnesota was her second place finish in the 1500 meters at the 2010 NCAA Outdoor Track Championship. In the summer of 2010, Gabe joined Team USA Minnesota. Gabe graduated from the University of Minnesota with a degree in English and political science and finished her Master of Public Policy degree a year ago. She is currently pursuing the 2012 Olympic Trials as a sponsored athlete for Brooks Running and Team USA Minnesota. Please welcome Gabrielle Anderson.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much to have me here today. I feel so honored to be recognized among such an honorable and wonderful group of women doing such great things for girls and women in sports. It's an inspiring day, and I'm so honored to be here. It's also such an honor to receive an award with such an amazing name like the Courage Award. Obviously, NCAA runner-up, and now pursuing my dream as a professional runner. It's been quite a ride. But I guess all that I can say is that when you face challenges that you never thought you would face, you often have to draw upon a courage that you never knew that you had. I've learned a lot about myself as a person and as an athlete through these trials, and all that I can say is that I'm so grateful for all the opportunities that I've had to come back from such a scary time in my life to really triumph over some things that really were struggles for me. I feel so blessed to be healthy and able to return to running, because I know that many people who go through such a scary cancer, they're not always able to return to their activities like they want to. So not a day goes by when I don't think about the fact that it's so amazing that I can even just do what I love to do every day, and to do it at such a high level, it's beyond words for me. So, but all of my successes, none of them could have been accomplished without an amazing group of people around me. And starting back at my first cancer diagnosis at the University of Minnesota, I was surrounded by such an amazing group of women and coaching staff, Gary Wilson and Sarah Hesser. They provided such an amazing environment for me. I knew when I stepped on the track, I felt loved and supported, and that no matter what happened, that they would have my back, and they were proud of me for even trying. So obviously this has taken off to a place that I didn't even imagine. I didn't even dare dream to think that I would be pursuing the Olympics. So it's really been amazing. And also I'm so excited that I can represent this great state of Minnesota, training in Minnesota and seeing the world, being a part of Team USA Minnesota, and with Pat Goodwin and Dennis Barker supporting me. It's been great to continue this journey. I hope that as we look towards the future in this summer, that you'll all follow me as I look toward the Olympic trials in June. It's going to be a great year. I hope that I can continue to inspire and encourage everyone and represent this great state on and off the track in 2012. So thank you so much for having me. I am so glad to be here, and congratulations to everyone else.
Thank you, Gabriel. The Special Recognition Award is given to a former member of the Coalition of Women in Athletic Leadership, sponsors of today's celebration, for exemplary service related to girls and women in sports. Today, we would like to recognize Deanne Brosnahan. Deanne has been one of the... Deanne has been in the forefront of helping to recognize the accomplishments of girls in sports for decades. The Athena Awards are a spectacular event held each year to honor the top metro area high school girls for their athletic achievements. She has been a member of the Minneapolis Athena Awards Committee since 1964. Can't be 64, 84. What's 20 years? And she's been the chair of it 3 times. She also joined the St. Paul Athena Awards Committee in 1995. Each year she writes the MC's script, thank the Lord, about the achievements of the 50-plus girls who received the annual awards. Deanne joined the Coalition Committee, which sponsors this event, in the mid-90s and has written the script for the past 10 years. In 2011, she received the Gamma Sigma Sigma National Service Sorority Distinguished Service Award for her volunteer work. She is the Executive Director of the Minnesota Dietetic Association. She and her husband live in Edina and are avid supporters of women's sports, and can be seen in the stands at many sporting events featuring girls and women. Deanne Brosnahan.
I'm better at holding too. First of all, I want to thank everybody, the people on this committee. I know quite well most of them, although there are a few new faces this year. And second of all, I'd like to thank my husband who's in the audience, because he's been with me to a lot of the women's sports and puts up with me for being gone a lot and or spending time at home writing scripts or whatever I do. My remarks will be quite short because, as I said, as Lynette said, I used to write the script. The award winners today are athletes, employees, and volunteers. I fall into that latter category. Due to my age, I attended high school and college prior to Title IX and wasn't able to be a competition athlete. Following my mom's example of being a volunteer, I found opportunities to volunteer in sports in the mid-'80s. These opportunities have afforded me many rewards and the chance to work with and meet many people, including some you've met today: Dorothy McIntyre, Lynette Sjoquist, Deb Diamond, and others you know, such as Ray Christensen, Randy Shaver, and at that time, Norm Coleman Mayer. I want to encourage all of the current volunteers to continue your endeavors as much as you are able. And to all you athletes out there, consider volunteering in sports. You'll definitely reap more rewards than what you give. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanne. Each year we honor individuals who exemplify the highest levels of commitment to breaking barriers for girls and women in sports. They are given the Special Merit Award, and today we have 4 honorees. The first Special Merit Award winner is Peggy Brendan. Back in 1972, the year Title IX was passed by Congress, Peg was blazing trails for future girls and women in sports. As a high school tennis athlete at St. Cloud Tech High School, Peg filed a lawsuit challenging the Minnesota State High School League's ruling that she could not play on the boys' tennis team. As she said, the lawsuit and the controversy that it generated encouraged people to stop and think about what girls were capable as far as what they could do athletically. It challenged the status quo and jump-started the implementation of Title IX. For the last 16 years, Peg has also served on the board of St. Paul Urban Tennis, bringing tennis and life skills to girls and boys in St. Paul. She is a member of the Luther College Hall of Fame, the USTA Northern Section Hall of Fame, and received the Rolex International Tennis Association Achievement Award. Peg lives in St. Paul and is a workers' compensation judge for the state of Minnesota. Peg Brennan.
Well, I want to begin by thanking the Minnesota Coalition of Women in Athletics for selecting me to receive this award. I'm very honored. And I'm very pleased that members of my family could be here today to share this with me. My sisters, Judy, Sandy, and Sherry, my brother-in-law, Jim, and my partner, Deb. I think it's sort of difficult for anybody under the age of 45 or 50 to appreciate how different the world was for girls in athletics back in 1972 before Title IX. Back then, only 1 in 27 girls nationwide participated in high school athletics. And at my high school, St. Cloud Tech, there were no girls' athletic teams of any kind. I didn't start out to become an athletic activist. In fact, I came from a very mild-mannered, middle-class family. We didn't eat spicy food, we didn't talk about politics, and we certainly had neither the money nor the inclination for a lawsuit. But as fate would have it, I did become a plaintiff, thanks to the Minnesota Civil Liberties Union and their willingness to take my case and represent me and my family without charge. As a result of that lawsuit, my senior year, 1972, I became a member of the St. Cloud Tech high school tennis team. That, to that point in time, had been for boys only. I played number 3 singles that year. I won 3 matches, I lost 2, and I earned my high school letter. And most importantly, in the very next year, there were 7 girls' high school athletic teams at St. Cloud Tech, where before there had been none. There is
been back to Tech since I graduated. Frankly, I didn't have a lot of fond feelings for the school given the outcome of the lawsuit or their position on the lawsuit. But he was very kind and very persuasive, and I agreed. And when I walked into the gym that February morning, there were probably 400 kids sitting in bleachers and on chairs on the floor. And he got up to the podium to introduce me, and he began by saying, "Could I have all the girls in the gym play on an athletic team at Tech to stand up?" And as I looked out on that crowd, all but a handful of girls were on their feet. Then he had them all sit down. And he said, "You know, if I'd asked that question when Peg was a student here, she'd have been the only girl standing." And at that moment, the whole gym was on their feet. It gave me a standing ovation. And it's a moment I'll never forget. It still gives me chills. Today, roughly 1 in 3 girls participate in high school athletics. I like to think that the lawsuit that I was a part of helped jumpstart girls' opportunities in sports back in 1972. But I fully recognize that the driving force behind girls' athletics in Minnesota and in the nation was the enactment of Title IX just a few months after I graduated. There is no doubt that the last 40 years has been truly amazing what we've seen in the growth of girls' athletics, and I can hardly wait to see what the next 40 will bring. Thank you.
Thank you, Peg. Our next Special Merit Award winner is Judy Youngworth. I don't know if anyone saw the terrific article about Judy yesterday in the Star Tribune. What a great article, and maybe even more notable, the article was written by Rachel Blount, who was a past media award winner right here. That is perfect. Wow. Judy can be largely credited with helping to put girls hockey on the map in Minnesota. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, the Women's Hockey League started with 4 teams. During the early years, they put on clinics, teaching women how to play and providing opportunities. It has grown to 81 teams and over 1,300 women. This movement helped create a momentum for the addition of girls hockey as a high school sport. As a member of the University of Minnesota M Club Board, Judy helped push through an initiative to present letter awards to women who participated in intercollegiate sports before Title IX. She says it was a heartwarming experience to talk to women in their 70s and 80s who were so excited to receive their M letter. Judy still serves as the secretary for the University of Minnesota Women's Physical Education Alumni Association. In her spare time, Judy played professional fast pitch softball from 1975 to 1979. But she played many more years as one of Minnesota's most honored amateur players. Judy is retired from teaching physical education in the Bloomington school system and lives in Bloomington. Judy Youngworth.
Thank you. 407 years ago, our forefathers... Oh, wrong speech. I thought I would start by saying that to create a laugh. However, as I really thought about that statement, I realized it was about 70 minus 2 years that I was made to realize that girl athletes were not the same as boy athletes. Girls actually were tomboys, not athletes. It was at that time, at 10 years of age, that I wasn't allowed to play hockey, not because of ability, but because I was a girl. Since then, opportunities have opened up for girls and women to be thought of as athletes. It's wonderful to see. We know the importance of athletics in the life of girls, and I have been reminded of that from a former to thank my friends and families that came. It was a surprise. But as I thought of those years long ago, I think of all the women who stepped forward to coach and fight for playing space, uniforms, when we could have our seasons, and having to justify their program. There are many women out there that deserve to be rewarded for their efforts. And Lynette brought up the article in the paper. Wouldn't it be wonderful if every single day, or even once a week, an athlete, whatever age they may be, would be in the paper, like they put that article in, big, bold. Actually, one of my classmates said, "Why did they use the biggest font for your age?" But you know, it was okay. So, what would happen if every young girl would see an athlete featured in the paper? What a boost for their enthusiasm for athletics and their pride. And so I want to thank Rachel. She really did a wonderful job. So read the article, not for my purposes, but just because Rachel did such a wonderful job of writing. We played our sport because we love the game. We love the competition, the friends we made, the winning and the losing, although I'm not sure I like that part, but I've gotten used to it. And the lessons we have learned along the way. As I've said before, sweat is sweat, athletes are athletes, pride is pride. There is no gender to those words. Thank you very much for this word.
Special Merit Award is Dr. Mary Jo Kane. Mary Jo is professor and director of the Tucker Center for Research on Girls and Women in Sport at the University of Minnesota. She received her PhD from the University of Illinois with an emphasis in sports sociology. Professor Kane is an internationally recognized scholar who has published extensively on media representations of athletic females. In 1996, Mary Jo was awarded the first endowed chair related to women in sport, the Dorothy McNeil Tucker Chair for Women in Sport and Exercise Science. She is a fellow in the National Academy of Kinesiology, the highest academic honor in that field. In 2004, she received the Scholar of the Year Award from the Women's Sports Foundation. This award is given to individuals who make significant research contributions in the areas of women's sports and physical activity. She was recently named one of the 100 most influential sports educators by the Institute for International Sport in 2011. Professor Kane was selected by the Research Consortium of AFR to deliver the Raymond Wise Distinguished Lecture next March in Boston. Mary Jo considers one of her most important contributions to the development of girls and women in sport to be the proposal she wrote in 1992 that secured a $2 million endowment to launch the Tucker Center, the first such research center in the world to be housed inside a major research university. The donation came from Dr. Dorothy Tucker, who was a 1945 graduate of the University of Minnesota. Dr. Mary Jo Kane.
Thank you all. I was thinking about the last time that I had a corsage, and it was in high school in 1969 when I went to my high school from, and we did not have sports for girls. First, I want to thank the Minnesota Coalition of Women in Athletic Leadership for honoring me with this most important award on the 40th anniversary of Title IX. It means a great deal to me. 1992 was the 20th anniversary of Title IX, and girls and women's participation was exploding all over this country. For those who worked to pass Title IX, we built them a ball field and tennis courts and fields all over this country, and indeed, they did come, and they came in overwhelming numbers. But as a scholar and educator working at a major research university, I was painfully aware that the research on what this participation meant, from exercise physiology to health and wellness and to the social sciences, was not keeping pace. So I had this dream that we, meaning the University of Minnesota, should start a research center that would take seriously the scientific study of what participation in sport and physical activity meant for girls and women, as well as their families and their community. And so I was put in contact with a 1945 graduate of the University of Minnesota, as Lynette just mentioned, a woman named Dorothy Tucker, who from 1945 to 1992 had given $100 to the University of Minnesota. I was told by the development officer to write a proposal in English, not as an academic, to put my vision and my passion on paper. And I sent it off into the universe and got a call from him about 3 weeks later asking me if I was sitting down, and I asked him why. And he said, because Dorothy Tucker loved her proposal and she's going to give money to the University of Minnesota. And I thought at the time, she's given $50,000 and no one will believe my story. And in fact, she gave $1 million, which at the time was the largest single gift in the College of Education and Human Development at the University of Minnesota. And she subsequently, as Lynette mentioned, has given us $1 million additionally. What we have accomplished over the last 2 decades in the Tucker Center has been the result of a team effort. It could not have happened at the University of Minnesota, where we were truly the first center in the country and indeed the world to do the work that we do. So I want to thank members of the Tucker team who are in the back, a number of you are here today, and to all those at the University of Minnesota, from the President's Office to the Department of Athletics under the leadership of Joel Maturi, to the School of Kinesiology and the College of Education and Human Development who have supported us over the years. And I also want to say, as I've heard these incredibly inspirational stories today, to everyone in this audience, because you embody a deep passion and commitment to bettering the lives of girls and women through their participation in sports. So give yourselves right now a big round of applause. And it didn't have to be 3 claps, Lynette, we could do more than that today. When I am asked about the impact of Title IX and what it truly means, I could give you all kinds of statistics or share with you a million testimonials, all of which would be true. But in my view, the real impact of Title IX is this. In 1 generation, we have gone from young girls hoping that there is a team to young girls hoping that they make the team. And there is a universe of difference in that measure of hope. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mary Jo. Our 4th and final Special Merit Award winner is Janice Klecker. Janice was one of the trailblazers for women in marathon running. Olympic marathon running for women really did not begin until the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics. Janice won the USA Olympic trials in 1992 and was a member of the 1992 U.S. Olympic team in Barcelona, competing in the marathon. She is also a 2-time national champion, 5-time Olympics trials qualifier, 2-time winner of the Twin Cities Marathon, 2-time winner of the San Francisco Marathon, winner of the Houston Marathon, and winner of Grandma's Marathon. Such outstanding achievements have earned her a place in the U.S. Track and Field Minnesota Hall of Fame. Currently, Klecker holds the women's world record for the, are you ready? The 50K, 50K, a record she has held for over 25 years. Janice believes that sharing her love of running with her children and other young girls encourages them to incorporate fitness into their lifestyles, enriching their lives. Janice has been a speaker at the Tucker Center's Distinguished Speaker Series, a native of Edina and an alum of the University of Minnesota. Janice is a practicing dentist and lives in Minnetonka with her husband and 6 children. Janice Klecker.
With the nature all the way. I hope being in the State Capitol Rotunda is exciting as it sounds, and that the award you get today is really awesome. You are a spectacular mom and an athlete and a role model. I know a whole team of girls who look up to you at Hopkins High School, and another crew down on the West Bank, where she's going to college next year at Augsburg in Minneapolis, that is going to be looking up to you very soon. Much love, Mary. I have the joy of living my passion, and it speaks to other people. And so, when you're standing at the starting line of your finish line, of your passion, if it feels good, keep going. And when you've lived it, you'll hear the words, that sounds good. It's with a very grateful heart that I receive this award. Thank you.
anniversary, but we must continue our leadership role across the nation as far as supporting girls and women in sports. Good day, have a safe drive home.